Hi, my name is Simon Howard. This video is about the Fortify On Demand trial, in particular features that are not fully available or not available at all in the trial. So, in a full production FoD tenant, one of the things you can do is with your assessment units that you purchase is that you can perform a dynamic scan, a DAS scan, of a web application, whether it be a website or web services. So this is roughly the way it works. You would define some scan settings, and by the way, you can define those and play around with those scan settings in the trial. You just can't do this as a scan. Then you would launch the scan or schedule it. So under the hood, you would, in a production environment, be using Fortify Web Inspect. It's part of our on-premise tooling, but in FoD we wrap it as a service. The way it works is it will crawl the web application looking for attack surfaces. That web application, by the way, could be a website, or it could be web service APIs. Now, how the web service API scan works is beyond the scope of this video, but you can read about that in some of our documentation. Having identified those attack surfaces, is for each of those, it identifies suitable agents to use to attack those attack surfaces. And then the audit stage, it basically performs the attack one by one, attacking them. So imagine if you had a page that had a username and password control, Fortify Web Inspect would work out, okay, so I want to do or simulate a password attack, like a hacker would do. And also I want to try a SQL injection and a command injection attack. As we do those attacks, what Fortify does, what a Web Inspect does, is it does the attack or performs the attack by putting the attack in a HTTP request, send it to the web server, see what we get back. The response comes back in the HTTP response. We will determine was it successful or not. If it was successful, then we publish that as a vulnerability in the results. That's kind of like the way it works. Another thing that's not available, you can see some of it in the user interface, but it's not available in the trial, is our integration with Sonatype. Sonatype is a leader in the OSS space, and they provide some great tooling that performs open source software component analysis, sometimes called software component analysis. Now we have that fully integrated in a production environment into FoD. You have to purchase some type of assessment unit still to actually perform a SCA scan. What you can do is what is shown here in the diagram here, which is basically when you define the static scan settings for your application, you tick a box to say you want to do that type of scan, and then when you launch the scan, either automatically or manually, at the same time in parallel as the scan is performed of your source code using Fortify, we pass an inventory of all the components you use to Sonatype, and then that list publishes a list of vulnerabilities that exist in the open source components that you use. And that's displayed fully integrated within the FoD environment. The tools view is available in the FoD environment. However, you can't actually download or use some of these tools. For example, you can't use the IDE plugins within your trial, and you can't use the CI/CD plugins. Nor can you use the cut down version of Fortify SCA, which includes Audit Workbench, which you can use for advanced triage. But by all means, you can go and obviously look at this page within the tenant. Also, there is a REST API, or rather a set of REST APIs that you can use with Fortify On Demand. You can play around, you can look at the interface within your trial, but you won't be able to use them completely. But you'll certainly be able to look at them. And they are displayed as shown in the screenshot here within the Swagger interface. A typical use case for that might be, imagine you have a release process where you create releases daily, and you want to automate that process of creating those releases within FoD, when you can use an API to do that. Similarly, you could create reports automatically or pull down results as well. Okay, thanks very much. I'll see you in the next video in this series.